Alright, so this right here is the Xiaomi 11i or even the 11i HyperCharge, since they both look the same. I mean, they're technically the same phones, it's just a difference of the battery capacity and the charging speeds. But how exactly good or bad is the 11i? I mean, a lot of people have been saying that the product is probably overpriced, or it just could be a negative marketing done by competing brands because it might just be that good. Or most importantly, is it the right pick for you considering all of the competition that we have in the market right now, especially at that price segment? Well, that's what this video is all about. This is Varun from GTR and you're watching my in-depth review of the Xiaomi 11i and practically also the 11i HyperCharge, because like I said, there's just one single difference which I will be talking about at the end of this video in the battery section. So yeah, make sure you watch the entire clip, and yeah, without wasting any time, let's just dive right into it. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about the design here. Now, Xiaomi has kind of tried to imitate Apple. Nothing new there, but yeah, they've gone with a flat design here, which surprisingly looks good. I mean, when I initially took it out of the box, I wasn't really amazed by it, but the design has grown on me to the point where I actually like it. Now, I have the camo green color variant here, but we also have the purple variant of the HyperCharge with us. Plus, you can also take a look at all of the other backs to see how they look under direct sunlight. Now, personally, I like these camo finishes better because they have this muted tone when you're using them indoors. But if you want to flaunt them, just put a bit of light on them and yeah, they have this unique look. Whereas the pearl one just shines a lot and yeah, not really my taste. But if you like it, sure, go for it. Now, as far as the design itself is concerned, the phone is actually very well organized. I mean, although on paper, this thing weighs about 207 grams and there's a massive camera bump here, but when you start using it, it does not feel that heavy. I mean, I was expecting this to be top heavy, but it's not, which is something that Xiaomi has done well. Now, another thing that Xiaomi has done well is the inclusion of that X-axis vibration motor. I mean, that is one thing that sets Xiaomi's budget and mid-range offering better than a lot of the competition. The haptic feedback on the smartphones is very good. So whether it's just typing aggressively or just using gestures to go back, that thing just feels a bit more refined as compared to other smartphones. Now, coming back to this frosted back finish on the rear side, there's no mention of any sort of protection here, but the frosted texture here definitely does well to avoid fingerprint smudges, so that's good. Up front, you have the Gorilla Glass 5 protection, and the phone itself comes with IP53 dust and water resistance. You also get a 3.5mm headphone jack here, along with the iconic IR blaster. That's great. I mean, Xiaomi is the only company that offers it, and it's nice to have that. Now, in terms of connectivity, you get a hybrid SIM card slot, so you can either choose to use 2 SIM cards or you can choose 1 SIM with a micro SD card slot. And although the phone does come with an AMOLED panel, you get a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which personally I don't mind. I anyway prefer physical scanners over in-display ones, so yeah, I mean, this is something that I do prefer more. Plus, Xiaomi has also added the option to add custom actions to these fingerprint scanners, so yeah, that's an added benefit. Alright, so moving along, we have the display, and the 11i comes with the 6.67-inch 120Hz Full HD Plus AMOLED display with a peak brightness of 1200 nits. Now, to be honest, there are zero complaints here as far as the display segment goes because the viewing experience is great whether you're using it indoors or outdoors, even under direct sunlight. The colors are great and obviously it's very vibrant to look at. One more thing that I wanted to highlight is that the punch hole camera here is very small as compared to other phones, which makes the whole experience look quite immersive. Of course, the panel also supports wideband L1 certification, which means that you can watch full HD on all major OTT platforms such as Netflix or Prime Video, and on YouTube you also get HDR playback. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that while the refresh rate is 120Hz, you get a touch sampling rate of 360Hz, which means that not only your overall navigation between menus is smoother, but obviously your gameplay is affected by that and is obviously boosted by that. There's hardly any input lag here, which is nice to have. With that being said, keep in mind that this is not a gaming phone, and why I say that? Well, stay tuned till the performance section of this video. Now, coming back to the display, one more thing that I wanted to highlight is that although this is a 120Hz panel, this thing does not have adaptive sync, and that was kind of a bummer to me. I mean, the predecessor, which was the Mi 10i, had the adaptive sync. Even the budget Redmi Note 11i has adaptive sync, although it only goes up to 90 Hz. But yeah, you get the point. Adaptive sync is a nice feature to have that conserves more battery. So yeah, I don't really see why Xiaomi did not include that feature. It would have been nice to have that as well. What is nice to have are the dual stereo speakers here. Now they're not true stereo, but obviously the overall experience is much more louder and fuller as compared to a mono speaker. Also, the device does support Dolby Atmos and high-res audio for both wired and wireless audio outputs. So yeah, that is an added benefit. I mean, the display in itself is great for content consumption, and when you add in those speakers as well as the support for high-res for wired audio, that's just amazing. It's a great entertainment package. Alright, so moving along, we have the cameras, and on the backside you get a primary 108 megapixel primary shooter with an 8MP ultra-wide sensor and a 2MP macro that nobody literally cares about. Up front, you get a 16MP selfie shooter, and that's about it. Now, right off the bat, reading all the spec sheets, I was a little bit disappointed that Xiaomi gave us a 2MP macro instead of the 5MP macros that they're known for. I mean, when you talk about macro sensors, Xiaomi is the one company that stands out simply because of how they offered those 5MP macro sensors on the Redmi Note 10 lineup. So yeah, for a phone that's supposedly priced higher than that, this does not settle well with me. But yeah, coming back to the overall camera setup, the output isn't bad, to be honest. I mean, it's better than what I expected. Obviously, the 108MP sensor means that pixel binning shots have a lot of detail in them, especially if you have good daylight out there. And HDR is also applied very well in the photographs. Obviously, it's not as good as Samsung does it, but much better than most of the competition. There's also AI optimization, which is good, and obviously it triggers the HDR mode pretty well. I mean, we've seen in a lot of phones where you had to manually trigger HDR to get it working, but Xiaomi does manage to do it quite well automatically, which is nice to see. Now, when we talk about the color signs, they are mostly accurate, but Xiaomi does tend to saturate them a lot in certain scenarios. So yeah, at times it can be a hit and miss, especially when we're talking about greens and reds. But other than that, it's not a bad smartphone camera at all. When we talk about selfies, selfies are once again detailed, and the skin tones here are quite accurate. Xiaomi told us that they have worked to incorporate some Indian skin tone color reproduction, and that definitely shows here. I mean, it wasn't just marketing shit. But yeah, the shots actually look pretty good, and the same thing goes for portraits as well. As for low light shots, there is very less noise here, and the shots are well optimized with hardly any graininess here. So yeah, overall the low light performance of the Xiaomi 11i series is also pretty good. Now when we talk about videos, you can shoot up to 4K 30 FPS, and it's decent enough. It could definitely use some work. There is no OIS here. EIS does a lot of cropping, and even then EIS works only in 1080p footage. There is no sort of stabilization for 4K footage, which was kind of to be expected considering EIS was anyway going to be cropping footage. So yeah, overall, I won't say this is a bad camera. A lot of people thought that this was a very poor or a very poorly optimized camera. No, for its hardware, it's very well optimized, works very well. The videos could use some fine tuning here. But once again, we've seen this with multiple previous Xiaomi products that some updates come and go, and that just improves the overall camera performance. So yeah, make sure that you subscribe to our channel for when we do a long-term review of this phone. But even right off the box, when you go out and buy the phone, the camera here is very capable, no issues there. Alright, so now let's talk about performance. So the 11i is one of the first phones to come with the new Dimensity 920 processor, and honestly it's a very good processor. It basically promises you the efficiency of the Dimensity 800 series while giving you more or less the performance of the flagship Dimensity 1200 ones. I know that might sound like a fast stretch, but overall in day-to-day usage the phone has been pretty good, and the performance is quite similar to the Dimensity 1200, for better or for worse. Now for better, I mean games run at the highest settings, no issues, smooth settings, everything works fine, no hiccups here and there, obviously 120Hz refresh rate, so gaming experience is pretty good. In day-to-day usage, you hardly notice any lags. In fact, there aren't any lags, it's a very smooth performance. There's also the virtual RAM feature, if you want to increase your RAM using these virtual RAM features, but you have a detailed explanation on how this virtual RAM, extended RAM, dynamic RAM, whatever you want to call it, works. You can check it out from the link over here. But basically, it's a software trick and nothing that I would really bank on. But yeah, like I said, it's similar to the Dimensity 1200 for better or for worse. For worse, because this thing also throttles. And by throttling, I mean, sure, you can game on this for about 50-60 minutes, but after that, the device tends to heat up quite a lot. And when I say heat up, it's just a lot of throttling. You start to notice frame drops in games, and that is not a great experience. Which is why I said that this isn't a gaming phone. This is a phone that's meant for everyday usage, and in that context, this works great. I mean, literally, multitasking works very fluidly on this. You hardly notice any issues over anywhere. And for normal day-to-day usage, and even if you're using this for navigation, the phone doesn't really heat up. But yeah, if you're stress testing it for an extended period of time, definitely there will be a lot of throttling shown here. Of course, aiding the performance factor is the software in here, and the good part here is that this thing comes with MIUI 12.5 right out of the box, which is the enhanced edition. So basically, with zero ads, all of the bloatware that comes in the phone is easily installable, no issues there, and the phone will be one of the first phones in the country to receive MIUI 13, which will be based on Android 12. So that's good. I mean, I'm still disappointed by the fact that this thing does not come with Android 12 out of the box, but I guess you have to make peace with that. The good thing is that Xiaomi has said that they will be offering 3 years of software updates and 4 years of security updates. So, I mean, yeah, that's a nice thing to have. Alright, so lastly, we have the battery life, and that is where basically all the differences exist. So you have the Xiaomi 11i, which comes with a 5160 mAh battery and is powered by a 67-watt charger. Whereas on the other hand, you have the 11i HyperCharge, which comes with a smaller 4500 mAh battery but with a 120 watt fast charger. Now, as far as battery life is concerned, there's a difference of about 600 mAh, and realistically speaking, I mean, they both last 1.5 days of usage easily. The normal 11i definitely lasts a bit longer because obviously the bigger capacity, but it's not that much of a massive difference. I mean, even if you're a heavy user like me, 1 day of extensive use easily, no issues, regardless of whether you go for 11i or the 11i HyperCharge. The one biggest advantage with the HyperCharge is obviously the fact that it comes with this super fast 120 watt fast charging. I mean, it's the fastest in the country. Now, the big question is, do you really need that? See, as long as you're a tech enthusiast, someone who likes to have the latest in tech, sure, that's a nice thing to have. Personally, I think that you don't really need that feature. It's a nice thing to have, don't get me wrong. And it's a nice thing to showcase in front of your people. I mean, people just go bonkers when they see how quickly your phone charges up. I mean, with 120 watt charging, the 11i HyperCharge goes from 0 to 100 in around 15-16 minutes. It's not exactly 15 minutes like Xiaomi claims it to be, but it's still very fast. I mean, like I said, it's the fastest in the country. And Xiaomi has also ensured there's a lot of device protection with graphene and dual cell technology and everything. So yeah, hopefully you're not going to be blowing up your phone. But at the end of the day, when you take into account the price difference between both the phones and when the only difference between them is the charging speed, I think the 11i, the normal 11i, definitely offers more value for money. It's definitely not the best phone, like I said, at its price. We have the Realme GT Master Edition, and we will be doing a thorough comparison of the GT Master Edition with the 11i. So make sure that you're subscribed and have the bell icon turned on for whenever that video goes live. And well, that was it. If you found this video helpful, make sure to let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more awesome tech content. Till then, this is Warren from GTR, and I'll see you in the next one.